Hey guys, so with the Village and Pillage update, the villages don't detect houses as doors, they detect it as beds now. So villages don't look like this anymore, they look more like this. And that means with the addition with the job stations, making your own villages is a whole lot easier and more fun. So here's how to build your own village. Hope you enjoy. Now, the first step to creating your own thriving village is to build a house. It's pretty obvious. Make sure it looks really nice and is nice to walk into because you don't want dirt houses, do you? Make sure to add a few beds. This is way too little, but if you want to, add a few beds so that your villagers can sleep in them. It doesn't actually matter how many beds there are, just as long as there are beds. Now, for the second one is jobs. With the addition of job stations, your villagers can have different costumes or more textures for their jobs. Now, job stations are blast furnaces, smokers, brewing stands. It's all really, you just have to search it up. You just Google it. But this is one of them. It's the loom. It will make your villager something. I don't actually remember what it was, but as you can see, all of these people are technically unemployed. But these guys are employed at the loom. These guys are shepherds. You can also make themed villages or houses to match what your villager works at, so it looks a lot nicer. I think that looks way cooler than just one loom in the middle of nowhere. Now, an important NPC job is the farmer. Now, the reason why the farmer is so important is because the farmer feeds the whole village. And if the villagers aren't fed, if the villagers aren't fed, then that means they can't breed. They can't breed, which is pretty bad. You don't want that to happen. You want to expand your village as much as you can. Now, when they breed, of course, they make baby villages, and they can grow up and take on more jobs. The well, or it can be anything. In the naturally spawned villages, they can be trees, wells, or fountains like this one. They are kind of like the central area where they house this block, the bell. When you ring the bell, and the bell actually rings, it means that your village is actually valid, and the game recognizes that as a village. Now, that is a very good sign. And to tell, if you can't ring the bell, it means you're in the middle of nowhere with no village. So, for example, if I go really out into the wild and put a bell, I can't actually ring it because there is no village. But if I go to my village with all these villages and stuff, the game does recognize it as a village and I can ring it. This one doesn't work. There can only be one bell, but when you ring the bell, every villager goes inside. It's kind of like in prison cells, how it's like a curfew time. You can kind of assign that by just ringing the bell. Now, when there's a raid going on, all the villagers ring the bells, go outside, ring the bells, and then come back in every time a raid wave is done. This will ensure that your villagers go inside. This is also a great way to tell if there are not enough beds. See how there are some villagers just just walking around? That means there are not enough beds. This is one of the 3 big problems that can happen to your village. Overpopulation. So this means that you probably need more beds. So for example, if I do time set night, everyone will want to go back inside, and everyone will want to go back inside. And if there are not enough beds, there is a very, very simple solution to this. They're what I call villager cells. So if you want a long-term kind of solution, you can just add more houses or add more beds to the existing houses. But if you want a nice short-term temporary solution, this is your best bet. The villager cell is a little just block. It doesn't have to match the theme at all. You can just be a block with a bunch of beds in it. This will ensure that all your villagers have somewhere to sleep. And this is pretty much the short-term solution that you will need when you're building a new house or building more beds. The only problem is the beds here are actually quite expensive because they're 3 wool. But that's why this exists. Now on to the next big problem. The next big problem is probably low employment rates or high unemployment rates. That's how I like to call it. So that means that a lot of the villages are unemployed. If you see a lot of villages that just look like this, probably means that it's unemployed. If you don't want your village to look like this, you can always add more job stations. Unless it's farming. Farming is different. You gotta actually have a farm. So if you just want something temporary and you don't want your villages all to look like this, your best bet is probably the brewing stand, because its job is literally inside. You don't need anything else. Also, another tip is the only reason why you need job stations is for the trades, unless it's farmer. Farmer is always special, but if you want to trade something like potion like, you would always want brewing stands. As you can see, redstone dust, you probably need that. So only use job stations for the trades, so always make sure to make your job stations wisely. So I would probably say grindstone and blast furnace are always really handy for early game, as it allows you to get bars and armor that you definitely do need. Now, your last big problem that can happen inside your village, other than raids, I'll talk about raids in a different video because that's another video for another day, is your last problem could be a low food, so a food shortage. Now, if you want a long-term solution, again, just add more composters. Like if you want, by the way, composters, here's a little tip. Composters actually only take a little space. So for example, if I add a composter here, that means the villager, the farmer that uses this composter owns this much area. So you want to always add little composters for a little more space to cover the whole area. Now, for food shortage, that is the long-term solution. Add more farms or add more farmers to existing farms. But if you want a nice short-term solution, like you want more breeding going on, you can always, as my channel states, bread is probably a really good solution. But all jokes aside, bread is really good. You want to just throw them at your villages. They will actually pick them up. How cool is that? That is the Village and Pillage updated advantage. You can, I mean, they could do that in the other updates, but that doesn't matter. It looks cooler. And you can just go to each village. You can just go to each villager and just throw bread at them. Wow, there's no one sleeping here. Okay, well, that's sad. I need more villagers. But you can just throw bread at them. Just throw bread. Throw. Okay, so that is a nice little short-term kind of solution that you'll definitely use. Totally. That's only if you're really that desperate. So you just, yep. As you can see, they're already breeding. Very short-term. If you're very impatient. Okay, so now, one of the biggest problems with villages is actually how to start them. So pretend I just kill all these villages, RMP villages. I not only Thanos snapped them, I Thanos snapped them twice. Okay, I'll never make that joke, but all jokes aside, starting a village is probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. In order to start an actual village, there are two main ways. Either you get 2 zombie villages, it has to be 2 by the way, for them to breed and like expand. So you always want some sort of quick solution. This is one of them. So zombie villager right here and zombie villager right here. So this will make sure that these guys are trapped in there and won't burn to death like that. So once you have them in their little cells, wow, this guy already took on a drop. That is cool. But if you do have them in their cells, you want to cure them so that they turn into normal villages. Now, if you don't know how to do it, I'll just show you right here. So what you need is a splash potion of weakness and a golden apple. So once you do that, throw the potion of weakness at both of them. You'll see that little particle effect, and feed them golden apples. And that effect, that sound will hear. The sound will come to effect. And that means you've done it successfully. These zombies will also shake a little bit. You can kind of see how they're shaking. And they also have those red particles, meaning that they have strength. So stay away from them. Do not let them attack you. They are very strong now. Keep them in their cells. So once you have them curing, I'll just speed up the process. I know how to do that. Oh, why did I just search up curing? I'll just speed up the process by pretending that they got cured. Because last time I did this, it took a way too long time. But once you have all of these guys as villagers, you can let them out into the real world. Now, the most efficient way to do this is to get a bunch of villagers from other villages. Wow, what a great marketing technique. Okay, so there we go. Now I have a lava pit right here. So what a lot of people do know, if you are pretty experienced with farms, this is something you must use because it's so useful. But there is this weird glitch in Minecraft where, for example, if there is no lava pit, there's no blocks over the lava pit, and I just add a little bit of villages, and then I add a bed, this technically counts as a village, right? But anyway, if I add this, I am not actually sure though, it might not be, but still. So now if I get a bell and I ring it, they want to go to their beds and sleep in them, right? But they don't want to because there is clearly a lava pit right here. But they're just pushing themselves. Every man for himself. Okay, so anyway, there is a common trick many people use. If you add trapdoors to this over the platform, ring the bell, they just go over, right? Pretty common knowledge. Now if I kill all of them, now it's just pretty common knowledge that happens because clearly it's a workspace now, right? But if you open the trapdoors, this is where things get interesting. The mobs still think that this trapdoor is closed, so they just go over it without thinking. I'll do this again. I'll do the diamond. See, as you can see, they just walk over it. If I ring the bell, this fact is even more. Yep, they both died. See, it works with everything. It works with every villager. As you can see, they just walk into it. What is this? Look, they all just died! Oh my! Look, these guys are really dumb. They're just really easy to manipulate. But we can use this. You can use this to make them fall into a little water pit where there's minecarts underneath. You can put this in front of a house so that you can ring the bell and then they all go into the house. Make sure to fill that house with beds, by the way, so that they can all go in. Go to an already existing village. Make that exact trap, except not with lava, but with water, so that they can land safely onto some minecarts. Then put it in front of a house entrance so that when the bell is rung, they'll go into the house, because once you've flooded the house with beds, they'll all want to go in there because that's where they can sleep. This is where the trap comes into play. They'll just go right, try to get through to their house, but then they just go right into the pit. Now it's really cool and also very useful, and it's actually quite funny to watch. But that is the solutions to how to start your village. Now the problem number 4 is with pillagers, but that's another video for another day. So I hope you enjoyed. If you got this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope y'all have a great day,
And I'll see you in the next one.
yeah, bye.